Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale MCU figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at Black Panther, in a new version of his Civil War suit no less, arguably the best out of the two suits he wore in the MCU. Now I got mine from toyswonderland.com, link for that is in the description below. They have pay in full and a loyalty program. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys review goes live on the channel. In my opinion, this is a very fitting tribute to Chadwick, giving us a 2.0 version of his first MCU appearance suit. That's a very strong way of paying homage to an actor that we lost far too soon. As always, RIP Chadwick, our thoughts go out to the family and friends that lost a tremendous individual. Front and center, we do have an image of Black Panther made up of all these little etchings and patterns. We've got some fronds down below, the Black Panther movie logo, and I just adore the patterns in the background. The colors, the layout, the Wakandan wording. This is a gorgeous piece of artwork. On the side of the box, the rest of that pattern from the front spilling over the edge, and oh, by the way, you can feel this, it's textural, it's not just all smooth and single plane. We have his name with his vibranium necklace, the rest of his shoulder spilling over from the front cover, some more fronds down below, and a bunch of line work in the background, making up all this geometry. You might think that it would look a little bit busy. I don't think it does. I reckon all of this works together. Around the back, warnings and legal information, his vibranium necklace one more time, as well as these two strips up top that kind of remind me of the banners that folks were holding when T'Challa was being challenged to be King of Wakanda. Don't know if that's what they were going for, it's just what it reminds me of. Wow. Hot Toys, they kept it super classy and low-key on the inside of the box. We've got these scratches across the front, they made sure not to do 3 so it's not confused for Wolverine. And we've got the statue of Bast overlooking Wakanda in the background, subdued, rather dark, but I think it works a treat. A couple of these accessories might be the culprits why I have the coronation scene on my mind. The shield, the spear, and the mask, they were all in that scene. He wasn't quite in this suit though. Not complaining, I'd still much rather more accessories than not enough. First in-hand impressions? Dude, this is a massive upgrade over the original. I can already tell the feel of the suit, the proportions, the look of the body. Oh, he checks a lot of boxes. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first, I wouldn't blame you for thinking this was the same display base as the one we got with the Solo movie suit. It is very similar. They have taken out all of the electronics, so it's no longer as chunky as that one was. And they've changed up the color palette. That one had a lot more blue on the surface. We have a very similar pattern, it's textured where it needs to be and glossy in other areas, like for the Panther head. We also have the Black Panther movie logo, as well as Black Panther around the front for the nameplate. I do appreciate the little pattern around the edge. Then up top, an adjustable crotch grabber. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this head sculpt now, instead we'll save that for when we pop this on the body. A lot of people assumed when we saw the blogger pics, when this guy dropped, that this was the same head sculpt that we got the first time round. I don't know about y'all, I can definitely see the differences. The entire head is a different shape. It's a little bit wider and longer, so it's larger in every dimension. The beard is completely different in texture and shape. The skin texture is more HD, and the skin tone is a little bit more realistic than the one on the left. The eyes also look better. The one on the right is way more lifelike in my opinion. Just weigh in down below. Do you see the differences or not? Oh, and it's worth noting, that head sculpt is far from perfect, even though they've made changes. We'll discuss it, like I said, on the body. You do get the ceremonial mask, and you are supposed to slide this over the head sculpt. There isn't any foam padding around the front, so please, be very careful. You have a little bit around the back, I just don't think that's enough protection, especially when you're sliding a rubbery plastic mask over a plastic head sculpt. The friction and risk of damage there is pretty extreme. The texture on the mask is well done, you can see this wavy pattern, and I particularly like these teeny tiny little triangle prints on the shiny metallic teeth. You also get his spear and the shield, also from the coronation ceremony. The sculpt work here is immaculate, especially for the grip with the pops of gold, they're nice and shiny on the matte black. Then for the metallic silver, they've also done some airbrush shading to make it look slightly more believable as metal. If it was just plain, bright, shiny metallic silver, I don't think it would look anywhere near as good as it does. They've also got this rubbery plastic tassel at the bottom, and they've added some washers in the individual strands for the feathers. Then they include a hand specifically designed to hold the spear. So remember when I just said for the spear that if there wasn't any shading on the metallic silver, it wouldn't look anywhere near as good as it does? Enter the shield with no shading. This is just flat, shiny, plasticky looking silver. Except for this middle portion, they've added a little bit of shading. I think that might just be overspray from the brown though, I could be wrong, I think that's what's happened. The texture for the front is not great. If you scale down some animal fur into 1/6 scale, the strands will be very, very fine. This is super chunky, so I don't like that. And we know they can do super fine sculpting. We've seen it from them before. The paint applications are good with this brown streak down the middle and then all the little dots painted on the surface. Then around the back, you do have some rubbery plastic straps. This one goes around his bicep, whereas this one goes around his wrist. You can also see these straps down below. They do poke through around the front. That's some pretty clever sculpting. I've got to give them props for that. And lastly, hands. You get these open palm hands with the claws sticking out, my favorite of the bunch. We also get some open palm hands without the claws, closed fists, and one spear holding hand. The detail is awesome all the way around. You've got this mesh texture in between all the little plates. The nails are painted in this metallic gunmetal, and they are a little bit prickly, surprisingly. Normally, hands for Hot Toys are very soft. These, they're not overly soft. And the bottom, where you plug them into the wrist peg, isn't super recessed. So sliding these on and taking them off the wrist pegs isn't the easiest thing in the world, unfortunately. What we are going to do now, though, is get Black Panther himself out here, standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Whenever we get a 2.0 like this, the question is usually, is this a worthy upgrade over the original version or not? With this one, it's not quite as simple as that, because the original, it had this charm about it. It was big, it was bulky, but it was our first Black Panther, and some people like that for their superhero type characters. They want them to be over-exaggerated. For me, this guy wins in a couple of key areas. Number one, the body. They've dialed back the proportions, making him now look way more realistic rather than over-exaggerated. They've added padding in certain areas and taken it away in others. And then number two, the suit. The material choice, so much better. And it hugs the body in all the right places. It doesn't look too big, it's form-fitting, and you can still see all the musculature underneath. But this time, they've added so much more surface detail. You can see the patterns better. There are certain layers that stick out over the surface of the suit. So just the material choice alone is a massive upgrade. Not to mention all of the extra accessories this guy comes with, like the unhelmeted head sculpt. Kicking things off up close and personal with Black Panther's helmet. They shouldn't have changed the helmet design. This is just too cool. It's chonky, it's angular, and it looks very mean and menacing. Especially that side profile. I don't know what it is about superhero masks and helmets. Todd McFarlane, I think, was one of the first to do this. The flatter you can get the nose to chin area, the more mean it looks, and that is definitely true of this helmet. The ears are nice and defined, yet not overdone. There are panel lines where there need to be, some mesh sections, some scripture working its way down the top and to the front of the mask. And he also does have little mesh sections for his eyes, painted in silver. I would have liked to have seen swap out eyes just like the second helmet. This one doesn't have that, it's just the mesh, which is accurate, I suppose, to this version of the Black Panther suit. He also has multiple glossy sections. Now, the main body of the helmet is matte, so the gloss, and then the silver, then the gunmetal, then the mesh, and the scripture, it all contrasts, and I reckon this looks stellar. Even around the back, there's a ton of sculpt work, and it does look like this interlocking pattern continues down the suit. Now, because this is a separate helmet with this particular version of the suit, I don't mind that there's a subtle sheen difference. The suit itself is slightly shinier than the helmet, and that's okay with me. You know what else is okay with me? This T'Challa head sculpt. Initially, I didn't think it was going to be. I thought, oh no, it's a reuse of the Solo movie suit head sculpt. It isn't. You'll see when we do a comparison later on, this is a brand new head sculpt. Actually, it might be based off that one, but they've changed a lot. The hairline, the texture in the hair, the skin now actually has sculpted texture. You can feel it on the surface. It's not just that speckling of paint, although that's there too. The beard is slightly bigger and there's way more detail to it. I love the expression. It's almost like he's got a subtle smirk. Can you see that? This side of the mouth is slightly higher up, and that just works for me. It makes him look cocky, and it makes him look even more badass. While I know this is inaccurate, having the ceremonial mask on the Black Panther suit, he should be shirtless, wearing some black shorts if you want to be accurate to the scene this is from. I don't really care. I kinda like the way it looks, and I really didn't think I was going to. I do have two complaints though, the first of which is wedging it over the head sculpt is very scary. Even though there's a little bit of padding, I am worried about scratching up the paint applications on the new head sculpt underneath. And the second is there is a step at the back of his neck and there is no skin tone neck. They could have very easily included this little rubbery gasket to go over the suit, and that way it would have blended the seam between the head sculpt and the neck just a little bit more. From the front, it's fine. It's just from the 3/4 turn and the side, and of course the back, that you're really going to notice that his suit is just kind of going up underneath his head sculpt, which is a little bit weird when you think about it. The mask itself is well done. I like the shape. It doesn't look too big and bulky, which would have been an easy problem to have, seeing as though it slides over a head sculpt. And I particularly like seeing his eyes poking through. That glossy look in the shadows, then having the teeth down below with the mouth, and seeing all the hair detail and the ear around the side and bringing the ears of the mask further forward. I like all of that stuff, so now, like I said, I am considering displaying him like this. Oh no, this is the Solo movie T'Challa head sculpt, and number one, I think it's inferior to this new one. Number two, it just doesn't fit on the body. It sits up way too high on the neck, and physically, it's smaller than the new one, so it doesn't fit in proportion either. He looks ridiculous. It is, however, compatible with the ceremonial mask. It's a little bit loose, it still works on there, so if you are doing a T'Challa Kit Bash custom, you want to use the original head sculpt and pop the mask on, because you can't really see it with the mask on anyway. Yeah, totally, it works. This is so close to being perfect. The only issue with the VDOT Collectibles head sculpt on this particular body is the neck is too chonky, surprisingly. It can't go any further down the neck. The gap between the back of the head and the underside of the chin is too narrow. You could maybe do some dremeling or heat up the head sculpt to get this on there and sit down a little bit lower, because if you did, I reckon you'd be onto a winner. We're about to move on, I promise. I know we've done a lot of head swaps already. This is the first version of this suit's head sculpt, and it's far too small, so they didn't even copy the head sculpt. This is the new one. It's significantly bigger, it's wider, it's chonkier in every dimension. They have also dulled down the silver paint. With the first version, it was very, very shiny. Back to stock, let's talk about the body, starting off with the proportions. The shoulders are nice and round, the traps are well defined, and they've even put this tooth of the necklace right on the edge, so from the front, it almost tricks you into thinking his traps are even more defined than they are. Very clever. The biceps have this vein down the front that's visible when the light hits it. Nice attention to detail. Then for the front of the suit, all of this stuff, the pecs, the abs, the muscles down the side, and the V taper, that's all defined by the padding underneath the suit. It's almost like this gel squishy layer, and the best part is it doesn't impact articulation. You'll see what I mean a little bit later. The same thing can be said for the suit. All of these panels, if you want to call them that, and then the pattern in the panels for the base layer of the suit, then the suit itself being nice and squishy, it all works in its favor. I don't know what they've used for this suit material. It looks and feels almost like Kevlar, like a woven mesh, and that's perfect for this style of suit. The grey panels are a nice touch. Various little sections picked out in grey, so there's some contrast versus the first version, which didn't have any of that. Then they've added some shiny metallics for the necklace and all the little accoutrements here and there. These little pops of silver, they also help break up the black. Now, some of these lines are actually sunken into the suit. Like I said, I have no idea how they've done that. When it comes to the arms, if you find that the wrist pegs are exposed, it happens on this side for me for some reason more than this one, It's fine, just pull the suit material down once you get him into the pose, and you should be able to cover up that wrist peg. Oh, he has not skipped leg day, and everything looks very proportionate. Nothing is overdone. You can also get his arms completely flushed down by his sides, his legs very close together so he can stand straight up and down. Then the suit, with this almost reflective finish over the top for the textured sections, then the matte parts and pieces, then the grey panels, and the line work for the boots, it all just comes together, and it makes for a very visually interesting suit. Compared to the first version, this was kind of just black. Yes, there were some glossy sections, but the suit pattern wasn't quite as accurate as the new one, and the body, it was just ridiculous. The shoulders were too broad, the upper torso stuck out way too much, there was far too much definition for the abs. And then the thighs. They look stupid. These ones are massive. They jut out above the knee, then it sinks in, then it sticks out again for the shins. Very weird choices for that first one. I still like it. This one is so much better. Coming down to his feet, there's a lot of detail on the surface here too, including the nails around the front. Then on the underside, you do have some fully sculpted tread. Oh hell yes! For those of you who have the Civil War 1.0 Black Panther, you know how hard it is to get a head sculpt that fits on this body. The new T'Challa head sculpt from the 2.0 does, and it looks really good. The only complaint I have is his neck is a little bit chonky. That's fine. His biceps are really big, his torso is very exaggerated, everything is over-exaggerated. So having the neck be a little bit larger, I think it works in proportion with everything else here. So now in my display, this head sculpt, it's found its new home. It's definitely going to be displayed on this body. For a quick side-by-side comparison, wait a second, what the hell? The first version of Civil War Black Panther? I didn't realize how unnatural he looked until now. The new one, way more proportionate. It looks like a real dude shrunk down to 1/6 scale. Even though the proportions are more stylized on Civil War, some people might like that. He does look like a proper superhero. Just not quite as realistic as this new one. Well, this is interesting. It's not going to work for everyone, I understand. Technically, these two are supposed to be from the same film. It's just that the suit on the left was at the start of the movie, whereas the suit on the right was given to him by Shuri. They look like two completely different people if we're honest. On the left, the upper torso is so much bigger and broader, whereas on the right, he's slimmed down a lot. And it's not just the suit that would do that. These are supposed to be skin-tight things anyway. I can suspend my disbelief. If you can't and you want these two to look identical, totally understandable. Pick which one is your favorite and go with that one. If I had to pick my favorite, it would be the new one on the left. Speaking of Shuri, I love this little figure. She is incredible. She just looks so real. That head sculpt is Letitia right through and through. They nailed it with that sculpt. She's significantly shorter than T'Challa, and I reckon she complements him perfectly. I can totally see a world where I display these two together. It's just dawned on me that because we now have a 2.0 of this suit, and T'Chaka was based on the 1.0 version, these two no longer look identical. It now looks like two properly, completely different suits, and subsequently two completely different people. The proportions being as exaggerated as they are on the right, I like that for T'Chaka, and with the ceremonial robes over the top, it does help him look a little bit more proportionate. Okay, this is surprising. I could have sworn that the solo movie suit was going to complement Killmonger better. Being slimmer, being a little bit more lanky versus the chonkiness of Killmonger, that juxtaposition, that's what I was banking on. Now that I'm seeing these two together, I'm throwing all of that out the window. These two, they look like perfect companion pieces. Even though they never fought in these exact suits in the film, I don't even care. This looks sick. Going over articulation, I am so keen for this segment. Hot Toys knew when they decided to do a 2.0 of this guy that they had to improve on articulation. Let's find out if they have. Starting off with the head sculpt, there's a ball joint at the base of the neck, and underneath the helmet, a double ball peg. Combined, looking forward to there, looking up to there, decent enough for an action or jumping out of an aeroplane pose. Then you get swivel and pivot side to side. First off, look how flush his arms can go down by his sides. Going up to there, they will go forward and back on soft ratchets. Look how smooth that joint is. Then we have a butterfly joint, going forward and back and up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, and for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. The torso is on ratchets, and there's two joints. There's one at the midsection and another at the waist. Crunching forward to there, going back to there, swivel and pivot side to side. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've ever seen this. Drop down ratcheted hips underneath a superhero style outfit. The legs will drop down to there, so as you can see, this one is now sitting lower. Basically, what that does for you is it increases the range of motion going forward. To there. The legs will go out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, double bend at the knee going past 90, and then the ankles. They have tried something new here as well. The foot hinges forward and back, just be careful not to snag the outfit in that joint when you're moving it. It also swivels, simple enough. For the ankle tilt, it's actually on ratchets, and I love that. It just makes it even more sturdy when it comes to dynamic posing. And lastly, toe articulation, also on ratchets I might add. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is, unfortunately, there is bunching at the ankles, and if you've watched me for a while, you all know this is one of my biggest bugbears. Not only is it dangerous because it tucks into the joint and it sticks to itself and potentially pinches and creases and tears if you're not careful, it just looks really ugly, especially in figure photography. This is a dead giveaway that this is not a real person in a suit. The second annoying thing is they actually gave us a pretty decent Chadwick Boseman head sculpt for once. And instead of giving us another head sculpt with the face already in the mask, you have to install the mask over the top of the head sculpt. And yes, there's a little bit of padding in there, not around the front though. So when you're sliding this on, there's a lot of friction, and I am so worried about damaging the paint applications on this head sculpt. The third annoying thing, clearly they've done something right, because I'm struggling to find cons with Black Panther himself, so I had to resort to bringing out the shield in the pros and cons segment. The shield is just okay. The texture for the fur parts doesn't really look like fur, it's not fine enough to be convincing. Then for the metal parts, there is no surface detail. There's no pitting, there's no dirt and grime, it is pristine condition. Not saying I wanted battle damage, just a little bit more surface detail to make it convincingly look like metal. The first cool thing is, while the head sculpt might be based on the Solo movie release, it is not the same head sculpt. The entire shape of the sculpt is different. His face is longer, his eyes are wider set, which helps with the likeness. The beard is longer and more detailed, there's more skin texture, the skin tone is more believable, and there's way more life to the eyes. I have to give the win immediately to the new one. The second cool thing is ratcheted drop-down legs. At this point, Hot Toys are just flexing, giving us a drop-down inside a superhero suit to allow for maximum range of motion. Oh hell yes. While it doesn't make a ton of sense that these are actually here, given that in the ceremony he loses the Black Panther power and he's not wearing the suit so that any combatants he goes up against are on equal footing with him, the third cool thing, still these 3 accessories. The spear, the shield, which isn't perfect, I still like it though, and the mask, they're a nice addition. Wrapping up on the Hot Toys 2.0 version of Black Panther in his Civil War suit. Technically, they are calling it the original suit from the Black Panther Solo movie. It's much of a muchness, really. He was wearing the Civil War suit at the start of that film anyway. To me, it's interchangeable. If you missed out on Black Panther originally and you've wanted that perfect version of his first appearance in the MCU, and you've slowly but surely cherry-picked and built up your Civil War line and you've been waiting for T'Challa, now's your time, friend. I don't think it gets much better than this. This figure is incredible. Is he perfect? No. The head sculpt is based off that original T'Challa head sculpt. While it is an improvement, it's still not quite as good as the custom ones out there. Then the accessories he comes with don't make a ton of sense. They're from the coronation ceremony, and he wasn't wearing this outfit in that ceremony. And then the suit itself may potentially still stick to itself, crease, tear, and just generally look nasty if you leave him in a pose for a long period of time. That's something that you have to be aware of. Factoring in all of that stuff, do I still like him? Oh, you bet I do. This is now my personal favorite Black Panther in the collection. He beats the Solo movie one, and he sure as shit beats the original Civil War. Even though that has a certain charm about it being our first ever Black Panther, Hot Toys have come a long way since then, and this figure is proof of that. Now, I got mine from toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They have Pay in 4 and a loyalty program. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.